So we begin the fly by installing the bead on the hook, pinching the barb, installing it in the vise, making sure it's secure. We're then going to add some additional weight to this fly by adding 10 to 12 lead wraps. We can now go in and we can install our thread just behind the lead wraps, just a few wraps. Cut the tag off. Then this part I like to get out of the way early. And what that is we're going to apply a thread base over top of the lead wraps so that when we apply material that we don't have the thread slipping in between the wraps. So again, you just do nice, fairly light wraps over, back and forth. And we'll end with our thread just behind the lead wraps. Now we're ready to install the tail. And again, we take our pheasant tail. We're looking for 6 to 10 suitable fibers. I find them on my feather. I'm going to pull them up at 90 degrees and snip them off. So the tail of this fly is going to be a body's length. It's going to be from the back of the bead to the bend of the hook. I'm going to measure it up. 1 or 2 loose wraps. I'll go in and I'll measure my tail. Then I can secure and wind back to the bend of the hook. I'll now cut off the excess fibers. And I'm ready to install my copper wire. We'll take the wire, we'll butt it up to the lead wraps, secure it on the side, and wind up to the back of the wraps, the lead wraps. Now back to my pheasant tail one more time, and I'm going to select fibers for the body. So I'm looking for 8 to 10, and I want them to be long. And again, pull them 90 degrees, snip them off. Now we take our fibers and we're going to install them behind the lead wraps, points forward, wrap back to our anchor point, then I'm going to take my thread and advance it to about a bead's width behind the bead. Now we're going to take the fibers and wrap them forward. For this part, if you like, you can use your hackle pliers. I personally just like to use my hand. And again, being careful of that hook point. Snip off the excess. Now I'm going to take my copper wire and counter wrap it up to the same point. And helicopter off. Now for the legs of the fly. I go back to my pheasant tail. I'm looking for 8 to 10 fibers. I find my 8 to 10 fibers. I'm going to go 90 degrees and snip them off. So now to install the legs. I'll start by taking my thread and making sure it's right up against the bead. I will then take my pheasant tail fibers, tips forward, lay them over top of the bead. And I'm looking for them to extend at least 1 bead's width up to 2 bead widths ahead. When I get them in place, I'm going to go make a wrap, a loose wrap to catch. Make sure that they're straight ahead. And then combine down the fibers to the midpoint of the shank. Now on this fly, it's going to be halfway between the front of the bead and the anchor point. Now to install the peacock herl that's going to make up the fly's thorax. Again, I'm going to snip off a little bit of the tips of the peacock herl to get rid of that fragile portion of the herls. I'm then going to tie these in. And work my thread back to this thorax anchor point. So now we're going to make a herl rope. Now this is an optional step, but it significantly increases the durability of this fragile peacock herl. You begin by taking your thread, pulling out about 6 inches, doubling it back, and go up and make a wrap right at the thorax anchor point. Now we're going to take our thread and we're going to wrap it around at least once, maybe twice, put in another wrap again right at the anchor point, and then you can move your thread right up to just behind the bead. You now have a loop that is anchored. We will then take our thread and we're going to take our herls, we're going to put them together, and we're going to hold at the end and simply twist. And continue to twist until you have a nice tight rope. You're going to take that and then wrap this forward to build the thorax, and we're going to go right up to just behind the bead. Once there, we're going to tie this off. And can cut off the excess. The next step is to go in and take these legs, and we want to split them in half. The easy way to do this one more time is to take your thumb and to just gently push up. If you need to, you can go back in with your bobbin to further separate out some unruly fibers. Once you have them split, we're going to reach back with these pheasant tail fibers that are extended over the back. We're going to pull them up between the two halves. While maintaining tension on it, I'm going to reach in with my other hand. I'm going to stroke these fibers back along the side, pinch, and then put a wrap on the wing case fibers to secure. I'll look to see if I need to adjust, and can then go in and put in a couple more wraps. remove the excess. I'm now ready to finish my fly with 2 4-turn whip finishes, and I'll put a drop of glue in between whip finishes. There we have one pheasant tail nymph.